the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott, for AVNation.tv. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Jason Knott, the editor of CE Pro. Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Then we have the wonderful Delia Hansen, the VP of Marketing for Claret Controls. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. And I'm joined by my partner in crime, Tim Albright, the founder of AVNation.tv, the poor soul who decided to give me my own show.
I was coerced.
You were.
I have no other defense.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Nice. Anyways, let's jump right in with our first story coming to us from Residential Systems. It is the consumer tech spending confidence is hitting its 2016 peak. This story, as I said, comes to us from Residential Systems. It's showing that consumer confidence in technology spending keeps edging up, and in July it reached its highest peak of the year. What does this mean, Jason, for integrators? What should this show to integrators looking at this?
Well, obviously it's a positive sign, and the thing that integrators need to figure out is how they can insert themselves in this buying spree. The one thing that I don't have any real detail on in terms of this CTA expectation survey is what level of that is DIY product, what level of that is consumer goods. Did Pokemon Go hardware cause a bump in July? I don't know.
No, but they do point out that where is it? I just had it. Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh, there it is. Early promotions are building interest and momentum for back-to-school shopping. So that would lead us to believe that this is not, it's tech spending, but it's computers, laptops, things for people going to school and college. Is that a concern, Delia?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily all that type of technology. The big push most recently has been more on the wearables and the concept that new rings and new watches and more interactivity with those will come out. The thing about this article that they didn't really talk about the exact numbers, and again, as you pointed out, you don't really know if it's in the consumer sector or the electronics sector, the personal portable electronics, or in our industry. I did do some more digging in Kepling to try to figure out where some of that funds had gone. Most of it's probably in retail, your online retailers, specifically Walmart.com and Amazon.com. And it showed it in our sector, we were pretty much flat year over year with 2015. The thing that I really think is important is the consumer acceptance level is at an all-time high, but the actual parting of the dollars isn't matched up with the acceptance level yet. And for me, what that means is we need to be a better organization at giving customers confidence in making those purchases. That's what it means to me. It means if they're worried or feel that they aren't exactly ready to part with their dollars for X, Y, or Z, X, Y, or Z hasn't really differentiated itself, then they want to, but they want to spend money, but they don't. And I think that's our problem right now.
So this just keeps coming back to that whole concept of we're still trying to, as an industry, learn how to market what we do. Tim, how is, CD is coming up, and obviously CD has been going through a big change. How much, or how important should dealers spend time on allocating their marketing research and really trying to push the understanding of what we do?
You know what? That's a good question, because that's a question that Infocom, the commercial side, deals with, CEDIA deals with, and individual integrators deal with. Our good buddy who's in my neck of the woods, Joe Whitaker. I'm not sure how much advertising he does, on the radio, on television, and in the newspaper. A lot of what residential people do is if it's not word of mouth, and you're trying to expand into a new category or a new geographic location, then you're going to have to do some amount of marketing and some amount of advertising. Now, is that traditional advertising? Probably not, but it's going to be getting yourself out there, and I don't want to say go to a local trade show, but make yourself available at a DIY store, right? A big box store where you can offer your services and say, this is something I can help you with. This is something I can do. I can show you how to do this, but also, this is what we do. We help you. We help you put in Nest thermostats. We help you make sure that your house is secure. We install televisions in home theaters. I don't know that the days of traditional advertising is helping the residential dealer much anymore.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It's something that we need to see more and more people, really, I hate to say it, but continue to actually support the industry and promote the industry, because so few people understand what it is that we do, and if they've got those dollars ready to go, it's jumping out to help them spend it, lighten their wallets. Moving on from that, a really interesting story that came across our board, which I'm trying. There we go. This comes to us from Telecompetitor, and it's talking about the Airbnb and August Homes and stuff like that. They are providing options for smart homes, and they are giving us the as far as renters, the ability to accommodate and have a property that is equipped with smart home tech like door locks, lighting, smart TVs, etc. And what's bigger news is that they are going to handle the digital key side of things and the access to this, so that people that have a vacation rental with smart home features, they're not responsible for providing those keys and that information to the rentee or the person making use of that. How big of a deal is this? Because I see this and think that this is absolutely gigantic. Jason, you were, as leading into this show, you were really excited about this. Why is this such a big deal?
Well, I think this story goes hand in hand, excuse me, with the CTA one, because I think it's really a rising tide raises all ships. We're still in that scenario. I don't think we're looking at technology bypassing the integration channel at this point. I think less than 1% of the top 5% of homes in the United States have even been introduced to technology. So you see a program like this, and think about when people now go on vacations and they go, this is all just a greater way to introduce them to technology. And I love this Airbnb Host Assist platform that, again, as you mentioned, Matt, it allows the digital key exchanges. It allows them to track the occupancy and vacancy settings, so they know when the people who are arriving for the rental home have arrived and when they've left. They partnered with Kivo, the Kivo Quickset. They've got Nest involved. They got Yale Locks. They've got Igloo Home, which is a company that does smart home control for an environmental sensor, and then August door locks, as you mentioned already. And then also Home Away, which is a competitor to Airbnb, is doing the exact same thing with an Apple TV hospitality app, that when the renter comes into the home, he now has an on-screen user manual that's set just for him as the guest of this home, that matches the experience with what he's expecting in a major hotel, for example. So all of this is just I love to see these new millennial type of structures, Airbnb, and all the different things that are coming with this on-demand economy that's being set up, driving towards technology and introducing more people to it.
Now, Delia, as someone who may not you specifically, but as somebody coming in to rent a space, knowing that they're moving into a smart home or they're going to stay at a smart home, where do you think the catalyst is on being excited over having all this cool technology at your fingertips, versus the privacy of having, another homeowner, for example, knowing when you're coming in and out of their doors, being able to, potentially turn on the lights remotely on you and stuff like that.
Cool factor versus privacy factor.
Yeah.
So you've got, you're going to have a couple different subsets of people with that acceptance level. Your younger generation doesn't seem to care at all. If I can control it with my phone, it's like, the world is good. And then you've got an older generation who's very worried about it. The first question out of their mouth is, if there's a camera, can other people view it? And for some reason, the younger people, they don't care if other people are viewing their cameras. Like, that's not even a problem. That says something about our society, but we won't get into that right now. I think that what you're going to have are your basic security type questions, and then you're really going to probably get into ease of use. A lot of times people's issues with things become subsided when it's so easy and it's so simple that you kind of are just like, well, it can't be that bad. If you're just doing thermostats, door locks, and some sensors where you can turn the thermostat off if no one's in the home, and get a notification that you've entered. This is not your personal property. You're renting it. Whatever privacy you feel you would have at a hotel, you expect to be able to take to an Airbnb. And I believe that's going to be your limitation there. I do have a question, though, as far as who's paying. Is this subsidized, basically?
I don't know. It doesn't say. I think it would come down to how much the users want to put it in. But again, if you are offering that smart TV, that door lock that they can unlock from their phone, they don't have to try and meet a stranger somewhere to get a key. I think most renters would be very excited about putting that kind of stuff in.
So let me explain or relay a couple different stories about our AVNation's experience with Airbnb.
Well, hey, don't jump the gun.
Okay,
I was gonna ask you the question. This isn't your show. It's my show. But yeah, no, Tim, going to you. We've traveled. We've used Airbnb a couple of times. We've had those weird random pick up the third rock from the left of the door and dig down 1.5 feet into the dirt and pull
wrapped
out
in aluminum foil.
Yeah, aluminum foil key fob
Not
thing.
making that up.
Not at all, and only having one. Is this something that, again, we've used them. Is this something that just makes life easier for everybody?
It does on two things, right? So the last 2 years at ISE, we've done Airbnb. Solely because none of us had ever been to Amsterdam before, the first year especially, and the first year was a great experience. The second year was, Matt alluded to it. We had to turn around and a geocache would have been lovely.
That's what I was going for.
Yeah, a Pokeball or a Pokestop would have been lovely at the address. It was wrapped in aluminum foil. It was lovely. It was hidden under 4 or 5 rocks. But the other thing is our first year I had never rented a place like this, never rented a house like this. And our first year, we're sitting there in the living room and trying to watch local Amsterdam television, and none of us knowing Dutch. So it was interesting. But I was thinking that it would have been so great to have some sort of a smart home system in here. Now, they did have a Nest, but that was the only smart device in the apartment. But having an interface where I can bring up either on an iPad or a dedicated touch panel, and to be able to say, you know what, if there are, here's some English language channels for you, all put together on a touch panel, or here's how to access, a camera to see who's outside. Both apartments, both years, were on the second floor, so being able to see when our compatriots came back from the show or what have you, and being able to let them in remotely, right, from the second or third floor, depending on which year it was. All of that would be great. In addition to that, you as the homeowner, you have the ability to do that anywhere, right? Yeah. The person that we rented from the second this past year in 2016, they were on vacation, so they had to enlist their neighbor, I think that the upstairs neighbor, to let us in and let us come down and let us in. If you've got a smart home system like this and you're renting out your place with Airbnb or wherever, As long as it has an internet connection, you could do that from wherever you were. That right there should be, should offset any sort of cost that you have with it. Now, yes, you can spend a couple $100,000 and you can hire a rich Fregoso to program it, right? Or you could, put in a less expensive system.
A couple of devices,
yeah,
and monitor it remotely. Make sure that when your guests check out, that they A, checked out, and B, that you can change the lock combos and delete any of that stuff. Make sure that the thermostat got turned down if it's not something that you're in all the time. To me, that's just absolutely fantastic.
Well, and here's the other question I have: is how do you? It goes back to the first part is how do you market this, right? As someone who is as an integrator, as a residential integrator, how do you market to renters, especially in this day and age where, yes, there are rental organizations and there are companies who if you're looking to buy your house, they're encouraging you, at least here in local radio in St. Louis, don't sell your house, rent it through this company or other.
Mm-hmm.
There are those traditional rental agencies, but now all four of us could be renters, right? We could all four rent our home. So how do you get in that market?
I think it's something where just like any other kind of niche market, if you go after that market and you market directly to them, and you start a Google campaign, or you get yourself a one-page on your site that is dedicated to, here's some information for Airbnb rentals or HomeAway rentals, where we can help you with the safety and security and bring you more income. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great plan. The interesting side will be how many dealers will, just kind of ignore another growing little niche market. But I think we could talk Airbnb for forever because I love that place. Let's move over to one of my favorite guys to watch in the industry. Jeremy Burkhart from Origin Acoustics has kind of rebranded a little bit, but he's talked about how in the past he wants Origin to be something more than just a standard speaker company. He wants to build a luxury brand portfolio. This comes to us from CE Pro and the wonderful Julie Jacobson. Coming on September 1st, which is just a mere matter of days away, Origin will become the exclusive distributor for iRoom in the U.S. and Mexico. All Origin dealers will instantly become authorized iRoom dealers, but of course they'll have to qualify for it, etc. All that other fun stuff. So a couple really interesting things out of this, and Delia, I'm going to jump to you first. One, this is fantastic for iRoom because it's going to essentially boost their current active dealership level from 400 to 1,000. What does this mean for Origin dealers? But more importantly, what does this mean down the road? Is Jeremy going to continue to push this into a much bigger company?
I hope so. We're doing the same thing. So we've stopped producing products that we can't produce faster and less expensively than a competitor, and just partnered with them to redistribute it as part of our solution, and just made sure that we integrate great with it. I think that other companies in our space are going to need to do that because it's very disparate right now, and that's kind of the reason we're doing this. So I would love to see them take over the luxury space and be able to provide all of the things you need to have a complete system from one space, give the dealers an easy access point to it, keep a high level of quality behind their installations and certifications, and really make it easier for the dealer to make a sound choice. That's kind of it kind of echoes back from our first story, where if consumers want to spend money, why aren't they? Well, because they don't feel confident in their decision. And when you have the manufacturer saying the same story as the dealer does, you now build two layers of confidence for a consumer.
Very, very
Preferably,
good.
CEDIA would follow up with that and be the third level of confidence for the consumer, and then you have the trifecta of people opening up their wallets and giving money for days. So that, I don't know,
like
that's my
money
hope.
for
Money for days.
You should send that to CEDIA. I'm sure they'd like to hear it. Jason, does this signal, because when, given Jeremy's history, and him leaving Speakercraft and what Speakercraft became and all of that. How, I don't want to say how is this different, but is this not sort of something that he kind of railed against with what happened with Speakercraft, where that company, got obtained and then became one of just a plethora of other companies that were all mixed in together? Is this different? Is this the same?
I don't think it's opposite of what he tried. If you recall, at Speakercraft, he tried to develop Nerve, which was a home automation system that was coming out of, at the time, totally groundbreaking for anybody to think that a speaker company should even attempt to get into the home automation space. But he saw the writing on the wall. Since then, we've seen, as Delia mentioned, think of all the brands that are diversifying now. And I mean, you could look at the cross-pollination buying that takes place within a brand like Snap AV, or you see the latest quarterly report from Control4, and you see the numbers that they're doing in the conversion of the package dealers over into the Control4 dealers. It makes total sense, and I think he was ahead of the time back in his days at Speakercraft. So I applaud this effort. Plus, it makes sense because Chris Lennon, who worked with him for many years at Speakercraft, is there at iRoom, and they've got a great relationship.
Very good.
Well, I also think it's a little different than what happened before in the fact that he now has a real focus and goal into why he's acquiring additional brands. Growth through acquisition isn't always the best way to grow unless there's a focused reason for doing so. And I think that his second time around, he has that.
Well, I must say, being, and full disclosure, we're actually Origin dealers. It seems to be a much more focused approach, even just with Origin in general, than what it was with Speakercraft. So it's something that, as a seller of his products, we like to, because we went down that Speakercraft route as well. We'd really like to see how it's tightened up, shall we say?
Yeah. I mean, a Snap AV is acquiring anything they can to increase their portfolio and have a higher amount of dollars go, higher volume. That's all they want.
Completely.
At least for us, we want to do it in a way that's focused to give the consumer an excellent experience. We'll continue to integrate with more brands, but the ones that we resell have a purpose.
Well, and it's that same approach that I feel that all integrators should, strive to achieve. Is you don't need to sell 40 speaker lines, you need to sell 2, and you need to know those lines. And I'm always concerned with someone who says, "Oh, we'll get you, we're dealers for everything. We can get you everything." It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should know what you're doing. Not to say that those people don't, but they probably don't. Let's hit our last story real quick, and this is one that kind of makes me giggle just a little bit. This comes to us from CNET. It seems Staples had a smart home platform, which I was unaware of, as was, I believe, most of our panel today. But it seems they actually had a smart home platform, like everyone else in the world. And it's dying. It's dead. They've sold it off already. Does this... Hey, is this a surprise to anyone else? Was anyone else aware that they had this line?
No.
Nope.
Nice. Good chorus.
Flash in the pan before anybody even knew.
Well, and so that's why I wanted to cover this story, not to snicker upon Staples trying to have a Staples Connect IoT company, but to look at this from the approach of how bad is this for our industry? How much does this hurt our industry when you have everyone and their brother trying to have some form of smart home platform? Jason, is this something that we've talked about kind of extensively on the show, how dealers need to market what we do? How bad is it when the consumer is walking into, for example, in this case, a Staples one week and sees this hot and shiny brand new smart home technology, and then next week it's completely gone? What does that do to us as an industry?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. We're still at the wild, wild west stage of home automation. Again, I think I saw a statistic. I think I mentioned it before that less than 1% of the top 5% of homes in the United States have even been introduced to home automation. So that you're going to see these sorts of things happen. I think that the bigger trend that I see is that the ones that don't seem to be pulling through, we're seeing success at the telecom level and the cable TV level and that kind of stuff, the people who are in the home, but the retail level seems to be a struggle, with whether it's this platform or Wink or whatever it might be. So I think the more interesting part of that story from CNET is that Z-Wave Alliance purchased all of the inventory from Staples. I found that to be actually the most interesting fact that came out of that.
And they licensed the brand name.
Yeah.
To use the brand name going forward. Delia, because obviously you work for Claire Controls and you guys have a great automation platform, does this type of situation, does this affect you in any way, or is there a way in which you can, I don't want to say profit, but that you can benefit from this type of situation?
I would hate to say we're profiting from the demise of somebody else.
Well, and that's why I said I don't want to say that.
That sounds so terrible. You put me at a loss for words even, and that's hard.
It is a challenge, and I want it. Yes.
I have noticed that of all of the products that tend to not be able to make it, it's the ones that attempt to unify other smart devices, the actual platforms. You don't really see the door locks going out of business because you've got an app, it controls a door lock. It does 7 different things, the customer gets it, it's the end of the story. It's when you try to combine them into an intelligent single system where you run into issues. And personally, I think that that's one of those come from another industry, think you're going to be able to make something happen because you've done it in some other world, and all you're going to do is apply the 6 things that you know need to be done in order for this to work, and then magically in the end you're going to have a fantastically successful product that gives the customer a wonderful experience because you've done it before. I think that's why nobody really, really major has come into our market space and said we found the answer. It's not as simple as that when it comes to how much human interactivity and expectation is involved, and how much a simple experience is virtually impossible to deliver. So what I learned from this is nobody is going to have an easy time of breaking into the actual smart home platform space. And that means when we do finally find a few vendors who can, you're going to want to latch onto them immediately because they're going to take you to the finish line.
Well, and that's got to be one of the biggest things that's brought success for Claire Controls, is that you guys are you're in the industry. You know what we as integrators want just as well as you know what the end user, the consumer wants. Is that true? Is that accurate?
Well, as much as anybody who's been in installation business understands what a consumer wants. You get a large number of consumers, they tell you what they want, you figure out what it really means that they want from what they told you, try to deliver that, and if they don't call you back with a problem, you kind of know you got it right.
Achieved it.
You achieved it because no one's called you back. I think that this is one of the main reasons why I work for this company. I truly believe we've been able to come up with that recipe to deliver a simple user experience that gives a homeowner what they expect, and I really do truly believe that. So the 3 articles we went through today perfectly align with everything I'm doing. It's been shockingly amazing. So I love this
show. The whole show to you. The entire show is tailored.
The whole show is all about Claire.
Very nice. Tim, would you like the last word on the demise of Staples Connect?
Yeah, sure. I didn't realize Staples had one.
I don't care.
No, here's the thing. It is kind of sad because I look at the Lowe's initiative and the Home Depot initiative, and even though I didn't know about this initiative, and it goes back to, like Jason said, the first thing we talked about. How do you get the common consumer to know what it is we do? Well, you put it in front of them. right? That's why I don't bemoan home automation and smart home and IoT devices being in Best Buy or being on Amazon or being, wherever it is that the mass consumers are. That's why I loved the fact that Sonos had a Super Bowl commercial, right? I think that anytime you can get into the mass market, it's going to be a good thing for our industry. There are fewer and fewer multi-million-dollar homes that these home automation systems can go in. I think that as our industry matures, we're going to have to get into the mid-range products and mid-range projects for whether it's not even a full-scale home theater system, just somebody that wants to come in and walk in and have their lights turn on and have all that put together. Delia mentioned, the folks who have failed are these one products that are trying to grab everybody together. That's what you guys do, though, right? That's what an integrator does, is they integrate all of these disparate products, and they do it on a phenomenal level. And I think if the average consumer, the average voter, the average person, walking down the street, who sees these different things, who sees Jarvis on Iron Man, and goes, "That's really cool. Why can't I do that? Because I can do this with my phone, I can do this with my phone. So why can't I do it all together?" We have to connect that person with you guys, and once that happens, there's no stopping you guys.
Very, very true. All right, well, that just about does it for this episode of ResiWeek. Thank you guys so much for coming. Jason, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can obviously find me at cepro.com or on Twitter at JasonWNott, and email jknott@ehpub.com.
Very good. Delia, it was a pleasure being on the show with you today, since we tailored it completely to you. If people want to connect with you or connect with Claire Controls, where can they do that?
ClaireControls.com, and I'm at Twitter at Delia_Hansen.
Very, very good. Timothy, thank you for joining me.
No problem, sir. Anytime.
Where can people find you? Or do I need to
plug
plug you myself?
Oh, technically my Twitter is TD Tim David Albright, but the website is the best place for me.
Very good. You can find myself, if you'd like to connect with me, on Twitter at Matt D. Scott, and pretty much every other social platform under that. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv, where you can find this show and a variety of our other shows. When you do visit the site, please make sure you swing over and take a look at our underwriters. They support us, and we'd appreciate it if you'd support them. Thank you for watching this episode of ResiWeek, and we'll see you next week.